You ever wake up thinking the world outside your window has gone just a little more insane overnight? That's how it started for me. And if you'd told me a year ago that fighting an HOA would end up on the 6 o'clock news, hell, I'd have bet my best boots you were pulling my leg. But that's Texas for you. Stubborn land and even more stubborn people. And my name's Grayson Matthews, proud owner of 320 sunbaked acres out in Bastrop County, where the oaks lean like they're listening for gossip and the dirt'll stain your boots so bad you might as well toss them when you leave. I built most of this place myself, from the first fence post to the last stretch of gravel. Even rigged up a solar array the county still gripes about every other fiscal year. But it's home, legally, historically, and by every spiritual right I can imagine, and I never shared it with HOA types. Not by a mile. Canyon Hills, that's the development that sprouted up on my north fence line about 5 years back. Half-acre lots. Beige houses cloned right out of a catalog. And an HOA that polices trash bins harder than the sheriff polices drunks on a Saturday night. Their fences used to stop right at my deed, and for a while, we all got along by ignoring each other. That was before I left town for 6 damn days. Amarillo business, nothing strange. Couple bulls to sell, handshake deals, old friends. But when I came home, the first thing I heard was the cows, bellowing like lost children. Walked out to the east pasture and damn near dropped my thermos. Some fool had run 12 panels of steel fencing straight through my grazing corridor, right across my tractor path, looping around the pond like they were building a moat for their fancy cul-de-sac. The kicker? A big laminated sign zip-tied to the fence. Temporary security barrier approved by local authorities. You know what I mean? I just stared at it, thinking maybe I'd had too much truck stop coffee, because this had to be a hallucination. Could have called the sheriff, the clerk, maybe even a lawyer, but I was too tired for bureaucracy and too insulted for patience, so I fired up my John Deere, chained that front bucket to the first steel panel, and just tore the whole damn thing down, dragged every section right up to Canyon Hills Gate, coiled it up like a rattlesnake, hammered in a stake, and hung my own sign. Temporary mistake corrected on private property. Figured that was the end of it. Of course, I underestimated just how much trouble a clipboard and a bad attitude can cause. 3 hours later, a black Escalade rolls up. Out steps Karen Salford, Canyon Hills HOA queen, heels clicking, clipboard ready, smirk so practiced it probably cracked her face in the morning. "Mr. Matthews," she barks, like she's ordering room service. "You've committed an act of vandalism." Said the fence was for community safety. I'd endangered their residents. I told her straight. "You tried to carve a chunk out of my pasture like you were fencing in a damn dog park. You'll be hearing from our legal team," she huffed. "Make sure they bring crayons to mark the boundary lines properly," I said. Yeah, that happened. Thought she'd stomp back to suburbia and that'd be that. But no. People like Karen, they don't take no for an answer. They just file more paperwork until someone blinks. Week later, I'm served at the door. Lawsuit in a manila envelope. Canyon Hills HOA versus Grayson Matthews. They wanted damages for destruction of communal infrastructure, reckless endangerment, and, my favorite, willful interference with a safety project. They even claimed part of their fence was on some historic easement nobody had ever seen before. Now it wasn't just a bad fence job, it was a full-blown land grab, with smiles and signatures. So I called Clary Jennings, best property rights lawyer in Central Texas and an old family friend, the kind of person whose voice can make a city planner wet his pants. Hired a drone mapping crew. 2. Not just 2 guys with a tape, but real pros. Contracts for oil companies, the whole deal. When the data came back, it was clear as day. Canyon Hills fence crossed onto my land by 34 yards and 6 feet into the buffer zone around my pond, protected by water rights from the 90s. Clary loaded up the countersuit with everything she could find: trespass, interference with AG operations, property damage, false public allegations. But we weren't just going to defend, we were coming back swinging. Didn't take long for the HOA to fire back in public. Walked into the gas station one morning, saw a stack of newsletters on the counter. Front page was my mug next to the torn-down fence. Vandal destroys security barrier, jeopardizes neighborhood. They'd cropped out the part where their fence was on my property, but sure, cute. That evening, checked my game cams, spotted movement, men in vests walking the old fence line. One had a drone hovering, taking pictures. Walked right up, Remington slung but unloaded, just for show. asked if they were lost. One young guy, maybe 25, lingered behind after the rest scattered, said, "You should check the complaint they filed. Something's off." Before I could ask, he was gone. Next day, Clary calls. HOA submitted a servitude map as evidence. Claims my land was once under a shared access easement from 1971. Only problem, the map looked like it had been printed last month and dunked in coffee for effect. She filed for a forensic review. My drone team prepped their overlays, and I braced for the worst, 'cause you don't pull forgery stunts unless you're desperate. Meanwhile, things got ugly. Received a formal complaint from the Environmental Oversight Division. Someone claimed I was storing hazardous waste near the pond. Photos and all. Signed, Randy Holloway. Except Randy'd been dead 8 years. I'd been at his funeral, helped his widow pack up. Pure fraud. Clary sent the case to the sheriff's office. Now it was criminal, not civil. My drone guys found satellite overlays showing the pasture's always been fenced and gated, no public access ever. Their whole story was bull. That's when the twist hit. The young guy from the survey crew came back, jeans and t-shirt, introduced himself as James Talbot, said he was a private investigator, hired by a Canyon Hills homeowner suspicious of HOA spending. He'd been undercover with the contractors for weeks, collecting invoices, covert footage, even quotes for equipment rentals from a company owned by Karen's brother. Had receipts, voice memos, photos, even a file called Project Legitimation Plan, a playbook for faking permissions after the fact. James handed everything to me, and for the first time I felt something besides anger. I felt ready. Clary brought it all to the district attorney. Within 3 days, the DA had a preliminary investigation open for misuse of community funds, document tampering, possible wire fraud. Local reporters caught wind. The story went from rancher versus HOA to possible criminal conspiracy faster than you could say temporary security barrier. Karen's board panicked. She called a secret emergency meeting, told the board to stand firm and, if things got bad, burn the records and shift project attribution to the safety subcommittee. James caught it all on tape. County surveyor called soon after. HOA had just tried to update the official plat with that forged map. Not just lying, but rewriting history, and not even carefully. James kept digging. Found this wasn't their first rodeo. 3 other temporary projects in the last 2 years, $170,000 paid out to shell companies, all linked back to Karen and her brother, fake votes on internal board software, contracts signed by people who'd moved to Florida. Homeowners started coming by my gate, some apologizing, some handing over USB drives full of budget docs. One lady even baked banana bread. It became clear, this wasn't just my fight anymore. Clary petitioned for a judicial audit of the HOA. The DA subpoenaed records. Karen's empire was teetering. The day of the hearing, the courthouse buzzed with reporters, homeowners, and that sweet old wood smoke smell you only get in a place with real history. I wore my cleanest jeans. Karen showed up in a navy suit with 2 lawyers who looked like central casting villains. Clary opened with the deeds, surveys, drone overlays, then played the GoPro footage. Karen out at night, directing workers to move it 10 feet in. He won't notice. Judge didn't even blink. Forensic analysts tore their fake map apart, explained every digital flaw, from font mismatches to a notary seal typo. Karen's lawyers tried for a recess, got shot down. James took the stand, described the shell companies, phony invoices, and read Karen's memo about burning records. The judge, stone-faced, waited only for the county clerk to confirm Karen's office had filed a forged map after the lawsuit began. Pure intent. His ruling was swift. Fence illegal, no easement. HOA trespassed and defamed me. Ordered them to pay $62,000 in damages. But as soon as that gavel fell, a deputy handed Karen a folded document. Notice of formal criminal investigation. Fraud, forgery, misuse of funds. Karen went pale as chalk, walked out without a word. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace, mixed with a kind of justice that's rare as rain in July. After the verdict, the HOA began collapsing. Board members resigned. One even leaked a resignation letter detailing Karen's schemes. The town hall that followed was like a block party with legal pads. Homeowners voted to dissolve the HOA entirely. The county froze their powers. No more fees, no more harassment. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the clerk. Canyon Hills HOA has ceased operation. Just like that, Karen's little kingdom was dust. The best part? State Ethics Board barred her from holding office in any HOA or civic council ever again. James Talbot, my undercover PI-turned-folk hero, left a note. Justice is permanent, too. I stood by my pond, watching the cows graze free, the corridor restored, peace returned. Made a new sign from an old road marker. Painted it deep red, bold white letters. Private land. No HOA. No exceptions. No reincarnations. Planted it right where their first post had stood. Not out of spite, but memory. A line in the dirt no one gets to cross. The story blew up online. Forums called me the Texas Terminator of suburban tyranny. Memes floated around of me hauling fence with my tractor. Had college kids calling for interviews. One even asked if I regretted not calling the authorities first. Only regret is not setting up a second camera, I said, and that's the truth. These days, Canyon Hills is just a neighborhood. No HOA, no more paranoia about mailbox paint or garden gnomes. Folks plant real gardens now, talk over the fence, raise chickens, nobody files a form. Karen's serving 8 years in prison for fraud, no parole for the first 5. Word is, she's reading up on legal codes. Maybe this time she'll learn the boundary lines. Last I saw James Talbot, he handed me a gas station coffee and said, "You know, the state wants to talk to you about consulting." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the cup. Me? Consulting? What's next, a book deal? He grinned. Only if you call it barbed wire and bullshit. Maybe one day. For now, I stand under that big Texas sky, pond shining, cattle settled, and know this. I didn't just keep my land. I reclaimed the kind of peace you can't legislate, can't file away in a folder. That's something no HOA can ever take. So what do you think? Was I right to fight back, or did I go too far? Drop your thoughts below, argue it out, tell me where the line should be drawn. Because out here, sometimes the only way to keep what's yours is to refuse to let anyone fence in your story. If you ever tangled with HOA nonsense or stood up to a bully with more power than sense, share your thoughts below. Was justice served, or do you think I crossed a line? Let's hear it. And if you believe in fighting for what's yours, don't forget to hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from.